Good day, everyone. Now that you are already familiar with the preliminary parts of Chapter 1 of your research paper, we will now proceed to the last part of Chapter 1, known as the definition of terms. Okay, so here you will learn how to write the definition of terms. So let's try to study the following format. Okay, so we have here sapphire is a gemstone that is made up of extremely hard aluminum oxide and is deep cornflower blue in color. Okay, so this is a sample format on how to write the definition of terms. Okay, so what did you notice, class? How was it written? Okay, so the definition of terms is actually written in a format known as the sentence definition. Okay, so whenever we say sentence definition, okay, so sentence definition is a form of definition in which the definition is written using a full grammatical sentence. Okay, so sentence definition is a technique in writing description of a certain term, okay, using a full grammatical sentence. So this is the basic rule on how we can write the definition of terms. And with that said, here are some guidelines on how you can write the definition of terms effectively. Okay? So aside from writing the definition of terms using a sentence type of definition, let us try to let's say highlight some of the other guidelines. Okay? So the first guideline is that we must use sentence definition. But the question is, how do we write the definition of terms in this kind of format? Okay? So the sentence definition actually follows the following format. So let's try to discuss it one by one. Okay? So we have here our example. Sapphire is a gemstone that is made up of extremely hard aluminum oxide and is deep cornflower blue in color. Okay, so notice, class, the highlighted word. We have here the word sapphire. So sapphire here is actually the term being defined. Okay, it is the term being being defined, or let's say the term that will receive the description or the definition. Okay, so what do we call the term that is being defined in a sentence definition? Okay, so it is actually known as the genus. Okay, so the genus, class, okay, so the genus is actually the first part of the sentence definition. Okay, so in writing the definition of terms using a sentence definition, we must first indicate or write the genus of the definition. And the genus is actually the term being defined in a sentence definition. Okay, so again, genus, it refers to the word or the unfamiliar term being defined in a sentence definition. Okay, next. Now, after we have identified the genus of our sentence definition, we have this, let's say, word, which is. Okay? So notice, class, that is follows the genus. And what do we call this word? Okay, so is actually an example of a linking verb. Okay, so the genus is then followed by a linking verb. Okay, and examples of linking verbs are is and are. Okay, so that is our next guideline. Okay, now we have the next word. After we identified our genus followed by the linking verb, we have here this highlighted word, which is gemstone. Okay, so notice, class, that sapphire here as our genus is actually classified as a gemstone. And what do we call to the word that serves as the classification of our genus? Okay, so gemstone is the classification of the genus, which is sapphire. Okay, so the classification of the genus is actually known as the species. Okay, so the species follows, or let's say, the linking verb is followed by the species. Okay? And the species actually refers to the classification or family of the genus. Okay? This is where the genus belongs. Okay? So let's proceed. Now, after writing the species in a sentence definition, we have this word, which is, okay, we have this word, which is that. Okay, so that is actually an example of a pronoun. Okay, however, what kind of pronoun is this, let's say, word? Okay, so the species is followed by this kind of pronoun, and this kind of pronoun will be known as the relative pronoun. Okay, the species is then followed by a relative pronoun, and the relative examples of relative pronouns include that, whose, okay, those, okay, and etc. So that will be our next guideline. So again, so let's try to, let's say, summarize it briefly. So first, we have the genus, followed by the linking verb, followed by the species, and followed by the relative pronoun. Now, after we have indicated the relative pronoun in a sentence definition, we will now then follow it with the actual definition of the genus. Okay, so we have here the phrase that defines the genus. And this actual definition of the genus is known as the differentia. So differentia, okay, it follows the relative pronoun in a sentence definition, and it is defined as the description, or let's say, the distinction of the genus from its species. Okay, so the differentia describes the difference of the genus from the members of the species, or in other words, it defines the genus. Okay, the differentia provides a unique definition. Okay, the differentia provides a unique definition for the term that is being described. Okay, so class, with these elements of the let's say definition of terms written using the sentence definition, we can generate our format on how we can write the sentence definition of our definition of terms. And it goes like this. Okay, so first, indicate the genus, followed by the linking verbs, followed by the species, and then the relative pronoun, and then right after the differentia. Okay, so this is our format in writing the definition of terms using the sentence definition. So in our next video presentation, we will now be discussing the second and other guidelines on how to properly write the definition of terms.